Doesn't even give a countdown. What an
No,
unprofessional.
not today. Not today. It was a 0 countdown today for the listeners at home.
Unbelievable. I don't get to do any Red Bull rant today because we're recording before we live stream them tomorrow, which I think is
okay.
No, I think that's on our schedule. I have it written down.
We were supposed to be off this week.
No, we'll talk.
Well,
about
I'm not around for that one. You can solo.
We'll talk about that later. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players Podcast, Season 3, Episode 13. It's the Charlotte FC episode. We told you it was coming. We just need a little bit more content before we could put it out. But before we do any dive in, I want to congratulate the Citizens, New York City FC, on their banner reveal today. As you can see, we've got a little homage to them on the board.
It's life-sized.
It is life-size. Goodness me, that might be the most... I thought the Revs Supporter Shield banner was bad. This is like million times worse. I hate these guys with everything that I have, and I feel bad for them. I would put money on it that during Yankees games, those are probably getting covered up with something else. That thing was literally zip tied to a railing. It wasn't even hung up. It needed 3 people to remove a cloak. I thought they were going to drop it down, right? Like Atlanta did when they had it on the pillar, it dropped down. So they're holding it like this. And I'm thinking, oh, they're going to let it fall over. Instead, they pull it back, and it's a banner the size of my science fair presentation in 4th grade. And they're like, yeah, we got a banner. And I'm sitting there. My brother was at the game. Natty was at the game. And I'm trying to text him like, what does it look like? What does it look like? And he didn't answer until I found it on Twitter. Until I found it on Twitter. And it's like this big in the top corner on like row 400. It was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen.
You know what? People are really digging into NYC for this one, but I'm going to be the first person to say that this was a really smart move for them, and here's why. This was genius planning for them, because the amount of times that they have to move their home stadium, it's so easy. Just slip the banner. You could put it right in someone's backpack, and you could take it with you wherever you go. Whenever you end up playing at Red Bull Arena or Connecticut, who knows where they're going to be playing the home games this season. But now they have it on the go.
Amazing. That's so good. I was reading the comments of that, and somebody was asking, what happens when they play their home games away? And somebody said, yeah, they're moving it to Hartford 4 times a year.
They could fit it.
That's awesome.
They could fit that in Ronnie Dyla's suitcase. Or they could fit it in whoever's suitcase. I don't know. Whoever's.
It's embarrassing. It's small. It's a joke. And we can probably dive into it later on, maybe in an episode next week, but it's kind of an embarrassment on the league, and I won't dive into why, but it's sad, and I can't find any New York City fan who will defend it, which is good. Charlotte FC episode. Angel Ramirez is like crybaby of the year. Again, family podcast, not going to call him what I actually want to call him, but consistently coming out complaining about the players he hasn't gotten, the facilities he didn't get, how he wants to just quit on the spot. We're going to talk about it. Jozwiak. We looked up the pronunciation. Jozwiak.
Still probably doing it wrong, to be honest.
Probably doing it wrong. Designated player. New arrival through the doors at Charlotte. I think he's coming off a bit of a knock, but he'll be recovered by the time his visa's clear and stuff. We'll talk about it, talk about the move, where he fits in. Ticket prices, something that I consistently see. Everybody talks about 75,000 in game 1. What's going on with game 2? What's going on with year 2? Ticket prices, they're going to drive people out? We'll talk about it. But before we do any of that, scarf of the week. What do you got?
Well, I don't have a Charlotte scarf. So
Me either.
I did an homage to a great start to the season for Inter Miami. 2-1.
Did they get a point?
I think they got the draw against Chicago.
Oh,
Game
yeah. Which they should have lost.
But they didn't, because your golden boot can't score goals.
because Clement Diop was on steroids that day. I like to mix it up. I want to go into my non-MLS scarf, but still kind of tie it in. Jozwiak coming from lower divisions in England.
So you have an Everton one?
I'm repping the Bolton. Too soon. I'm repping the Bolton Wanderers Football Club scarf. Nice little crest on the corner there. The 1877. Nice looking, very comfortable scarf. I like the fabric. So that was my scarves.
Good stuff.
Jump right into it.
Yes, of course.
Of course, we want to get this thing over with. I'm going to need to get my charger at some point. I think we might be running out of battery. But
wow, you should have planned that beforehand.
I should have if I wasn't sleeping during the Seattle game. The Athletic, a great source for printed MLS news. Something I don't indulge in myself, which I wish I did, but I don't read enough, so I wouldn't utilize it as well. The Athletic posts an article about Charlotte FC's head coach, Miguel Angel Ramirez. And he has just been the absolute center of attention for this team. It should be about the fans. It should be about the team on the field, but it's always about him. And it's all the wrong reasons. Quote after quote after quote continue to fly out about his dissatisfaction with the side that he has, the facilities, the ownership, this, that, and the other. It's almost like somebody didn't tell him he was joining an expansion team. Some of the quotes that we were seeing. Let's wait, when asked about how his roster was going into the season, let's wait until the roster finishes building out. When we finish that, I'll answer the question and tell you how I see things. Until then, we are screwed. He has lamented the club's lack of permanent training facility, has shown his annoyance with Charlotte's inability to land some of his top transfer targets, and has basically threatened to walk out the door. To start all of this, is Ramirez out of line, or is this completely fair? I ask you, sir.
Yeah, I want to say that he is out of line, to be honest. I think he needs to kind of reel it back in and then take a step back and realize this is a club that's being started from the ground up. I don't believe Charlotte's coming from like a USL team, right? Like it's starting from scratch.
I do believe so. I know there were Charlotte-based lower level teams.
Right. But it's not like an FCC where they're translating, just like
Correct.
taking the team, moving the league. Like you're starting from the ground up. I'm pretty sure that is the way too, because I remember them like talking about their first ever signing and all that.
Right.
Of course, not everything's going to go perfect when you have to literally build an entire club from the ground up. Of course, I'm sure things could have gone better. It sounds like there are some genuine issues and probably some things that Ramirez has a genuine, like, what's the right way to say it? Like a genuine right to be upset over. But I think for the most part, this is the hand that he's dealt with. He signed up to be their coach. He needs to back the guys that he has now, give them some confidence. And at the end of the season, if things don't work out, you move on and you go find something that aligns better with what you're looking for. But I think while he is the head coach of this team and while he has control of, managing this team, he needs to lock in, support them, and not cause this much commotion about how unhappy he is with the way things are being built up at Charlotte. What do you think?
Say it with your chest, bro. It's absolutely out of line. Somebody had to have told him that when he came in, they were starting from the ground up. There's no way they led him on and he had no idea, right? But that's the challenge of being in the role of being a head coach of an expansion team. You can look at the Atlantas, you can look at the LAFCs and see how great they started, right? But they had stupid rich owners who bought them everything that they wanted and managers that got players that fit their style. Charlotte came in through COVID. The transfer market was messed up. I mean, I'm just, everything's just flooding my head now, but all the issues that they had to deal with that I was reading about and going through, but expansion teams take time before they find their success, right? Some expansion teams still haven't found success. Inter Miami and FCC are class examples of that. Orlando City took 6 years before they made success. Minnesota took 4. All these teams had to work their way to success, figure out what their issues were, build from the ground up.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to do this on day, game week 2. Like, if FCC had a consistent coach through their first 3 years, absolutely he deserves to complain every little bit. But you're in game week 2 of the existence of the club and you're complaining already.
Absolutely. It's criminal. This appointment, the appointment of Miguel Angel Ramirez into this role, is feeling more and more like some Euro snob coach who thought that he was going to get a big bag of money to show up, get anything that he was asked for because he came from Europe, and just walk through a league that was not good. Everything about this whole last 2 weeks, 3 weeks feels like I'm from Europe in a lesser league and I should be getting everything I want, blah, 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 blah. Now he's realizing the challenges that he has to deal with, and he's getting ready to walk out. And I'm going to use this term, and it might be a little harsh, but it's straight up embarrassing. I can't imagine what's going through the player's head, right? You're showing up every day to training with a coach who thinks you guys all suck and doesn't want to be there and thinks the facilities are terrible, and you have to just show up and play. Awful atmosphere. It has to be. They need to look as a team like the Nashvilles or the New York Cities and understand that, and New York City is even a stretch because they had Man City feeding them players the whole time. But understand that you might have a difficult first year adapting, especially as a flat out expansion team, not a USL promoted, right? You have to look at the Nashvilles and think, okay, I'm going to get through this first year, learn where my weaknesses are, be a good soccer coach, be a good soccer mind, and understand, okay, my weaknesses are here, here, here. My play style depends on these certain tactics and these certain roles and responsibilities that the players that I have right now are not getting it. Tell your scouts to go look for players to fit these roles and responsibilities and build up for next year. But crying and complaining is not the answer. Not every team is going to be Atlanta, Seattle, LAFC. That's just life. The whole point of, you can't get your transfer targets. You're in Charlotte. That is a small market for football. It just is. 75,000 is great, right? But if you look at the big name markets, you get the big name players. New York City, LA, LAFC. Those teams get the players because of where they're located. So it's another obstacle you have to deal with. But he probably didn't know that because he didn't do any work to realize where he was going. He just made an impulse decision.
I'll give you a little bit of a context as to his background prior to coming in here, because he doesn't actually have any European experience. So he's coming.
Let me rephrase. I know he doesn't have European experience, but he's a Spanish manager.
Yes,
so my
came
point
from Brazil most recently.
Yeah, my point wasn't he was a European manager, European.
No, but he has that vibe to him.
But he has that Euro snob vibe. Like, I'm from Europe and MLS is lesser than me.
Like, that I'm better than this league.
Correct. And that's where I was going with that. I knew he wasn't in Europe per se. But he has that vibe,
Yeah, I can give you a little context on his previous management stint before he came over to Charlotte. He was with Internacional in Brazil. The season, I believe, prior to him taking over, the team had 70 points and finished second in the league. He comes in the season after the 20. So he comes in the 2021 season. He joins in March 2021. He was sacked by June. He made it 3 months, I think. And Internacional, I believe, finished in 12th place that season. So I'm not sure what is he basing this like pompous this very like you guys should build around me kind of attitude. Like it's not like you're Jose Mourinho coming in with this long laundry list of success that you've had. You're coming in off of a really bad stint in Brazil.
Yeah, he has not had a stint with a club with over a 50% win ratio in his entire career at the pro level. He was a youth coach forever. And maybe that's what it was. Maybe they wanted to be a FC Dallas, Philly, Red Bull type of, we want to build from the ground up and we want you to, integrate that to the top team. But that's not what these quotes are saying. These quotes are saying, I was expected to be handed a boatload of money to get whoever I wanted. Now, let's talk about this whole training facilities thing. They, as I mentioned earlier, they became a team with a plan that was laid out during COVID or right before COVID when they were trying to expand, right? Everybody's timeline got pushed a little bit. They had a really good plan in place. I did a little bit of research on this. They had a really good plan in place. They had locations picked out. They had commitments from architecture firms to put everything together. And then COVID came and everything got bumped. City pulled funding on their training. They were going to give them an old kind of lot of land that nobody was really getting to put together a training facility. And they had this design and it looked super professional, super nice. But the funding got pulled. And without the funding, they weren't going to do it. But you can't blame anybody for that, right? You just can't. They've got a design from the same people who built the Man City Academy and the NYCFC Academy ground to put together something, again, when it was rendered, it looked phenomenal. But you can tell that it's been abandoned or it's been on the back burner because everything in there says 2021. But because it got pushed back, it's 2022. But you can't throw a hissy fit over not having a training ground because of the fact that the city's pulling funding on your team. It's going to come. It's going to look really nice. But you got to wait. Again, how many teams come in and have everything laid out from permanent stadium, permanent training grounds, complete established identity of who they are in the city that they're playing in? None. Everybody has at least 2 or 3 years where they're playing in these makeshift homes for a little bit. That's what expansion is.
Yeah, that's what Atlanta did. They played half their first season at Bobby Dodd Stadium.
I mean, Nashville played two years outside of the new stadium that they're about to get. Minnesota played 2 years outside of Allianz. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I do kind of feel like I understand why he could be frustrated if he was, coming in with this expectation, and I get it. He shouldn't put the blame on the team. I could just maybe I could see where his frustration comes from a little bit, but I still think that he shouldn't handle it the way that he is. It feels not very professional the way he's handling it. He's kind of just blowing up about it. Like if you're upset, that's fine, but like at least do what you can for the time being. Like you're an employee of the team.
I think that's a really good point. It's not necessarily the fact that he's upset with it. It's how he's handling it. You are an adult. You are a professional manager, and you have to put a good face on for a brand new team. Be better. Just be better. So, what happens if Miguel Angel Ramirez packs it up and walks out the door? 2 months from now, he says, I'm done. See ya.
It would put them in probably a tough spot. I don't think it would be the end of the world for them though, because I don't see this season as being anything super fantastic for them. They're not coming in like LAFC or Atlanta where they have expectations of making the playoffs. I kind of think this first season they're gonna kind of try to settle in, get a little bit used to the league. So if he were to walk out mid-season, I don't think it's the end of the world. I think they can get by with an interim, and then at that point, go find a coach that wants to be here and wants to play for this team.
I did a little bit of research on expansion teams with unsuccessful first-year coaches because I like numbers and I'm a nerd.
Uh-huh.
Can you think of there are 3 teams who were expansion teams whose coach did not get out of the first year? They got sacked. Can you guess who they are?
This is all-time MLS?
All-time MLS. Doesn't count 1996. So it doesn't count the startup.
Okay. Does FCC count? I don't remember if the first year was when he got sacked because of the off the field stuff.
That was the second year.
That was the second year.
Alan Cook at FCC lasted 3 months.
Oh,
he was out.
Yikes.
So that's 1.
Okay. A part of me feels like Orlando.
Not Orlando. He lasted the full year.
Okay. Inter Miami?
Nope. Diego Alonso lasted the full year and split.
I don't know if I can guess the other 2, honestly.
That's all right, because one of them doesn't exist anymore. Chivas USA hired Thomas Ranjan, who lasted. Thomas Ranjan had an awful MLS managerial list with 1 to 2 years max before getting fired and moving on somewhere else. He lasted about 4 months, and that team no longer exists. Alan Cook for FCC lasted 3 months, and we know how we feel about FCC. Tidor Thordarson for Vancouver.
Oh, Vancouver.
Also
Nice.
only lasted about 3 months before being sacked. The difference, Cook and Thordarson came from USL up. So they had success at the USL level, couldn't adapt, were fired.
That's fair.
But all 3 teams found this immense struggle and had a long time before they either got good, figured out that they're really bad, or straight up stopped existing.
I think what you're telling me, what I'm gathering from this is within 10 years, Charlotte's not going to exist anymore.
It's only week 2. I'm not jumping to any conclusion, but this isn't a good sign of things to come. We can look at the teams that only had a coach for a year. Diego Alonso, I mentioned, Inter Miami. They're 3 years in now, still trying to figure out what they're doing. Carlos Cordoba at the Miami Fusion, which no longer exists. Jason Kreis at NYC, probably the only team with a bit of success right now. Short-term success after having a one-and-done manager. And Mo Johnston at TFC in 2011, 2009, where it took them a decade before they got anything close to a playoff run.
Yeah.
It will be a monumental sign of failure from the club if he walks out the door because he can't handle the pressure of being a startup coach. They had 75,000 show up for game 1. We're going to talk about that. But these fans are already not super happy. Salud. They're not super happy with a lot of things, and we're going to dive into that. But this is not going in the right direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agreed. I think we should probably move on to the next topic because we've been on this one for a while now.
Have we really? It feels like I could talk about this all day, but
no, I think that's fair. I think it's fair. It's I think the main crux of this podcast episode is mainly on Ramirez and kind of how things are looking in the early stages for Charlotte. And I feel like the best way to sum it up is, things don't look great. I mean, it's great that they had 75,000 fans, but that kind of feels like a blanket being put over the true problems with the club right now.
You know what? Why don't we move into that? And let's skip over
Okay.
Jozwiak and let's
come
go
back
into
to that,
ticket
yeah.
prices. I think that's a much easier transition.
Okay.
According to reports, and I don't have, I got a buddy who picked his up. He lives in Charlotte. I think it was around, I want to say 900. It was a long time ago I talked to him, but I should have reached out to him today and asked him, but that's on me. Reports were coming out that season tickets were well over $1,000 a seat for the new stadium, as well as making fans buy personal seat licenses for another $550 or something like that. So you're looking at a $1,500 investment for season tickets to a team that can't score a goal. Again, week 2, right? For the game that they had 75,000 people at, the lowest price ticket you could get on the day was right about $100 for a single seat in the nosebleeds. Are we kidding? When you put all this stuff together, I think somebody had done calculations that there is not a single team in Europe's top 5 leagues that will charge you this much to go watch their team as a season ticket price. This team is coming into a league that does not draw the way that European leagues do, that American football, baseball, NBA, we don't have that draw where you're able to do that yet. So my first question is, what do you think? What is your initial reaction?
My initial reaction is the 75,000 is going to be fluff numbers for Charlotte, because it's this new exciting thing in the town and there's a lot of hype surrounding it. So spending the money on one game, okay, it's not as big of a deal. But to pay $1,500 to watch this team for the full season, this team, the one that the manager doesn't want to be there and the team hasn't scored a goal yet all season, you're going to pay $1,500 to watch this. I mean, granted, I'm sure a lot of people paid prior to the start of the season, but I think if this is what they're going to continue to do in seasons going forward, they are screwed, because people are, if they continue to play the way that they have started this season, no way people are going to pay $1,500 again next season to watch this team. No way. Why would you? You'd be irresponsible with your money to do so.
You're telling me you wouldn't want to pay $1,500 to watch Brad Bronico run a single number 6 pivot for Charlotte FC?
I can't say that I would, to be honest with you.
My thoughts: outrageous, stupid, and unnecessary. I hate it. Period. Mm-hmm. That's it. I don't want to dive into it any farther, because it's pure silliness, right? Everybody wants to compare to Europe. Even Europeans aren't making you pay that much to watch a team, right? Everton is not making you pay $1,500 American dollars to watch them get relegated. Easy stuff. And again, you're looking at a long-term process here, right? Like you mentioned, the 75K for the opening match, they usually cap it off at about 3,800 in the football stadium they're playing in. That's where they opened it at 75 for the opening match, but most games are going to be 3,800 or 38,000, excuse me. And I've got a little note here on average decreases that we see from expansion teams year after year, but you're not looking to make an MLS expansion team is not a business decision to make a quick buck. It's a long-term project, if you're in it for the business side, to make an investment in something that is supposed to grow in worth and value over 5, 10, 15 years, right? So if you buy in at, I think they bought in at 350 to 400 million, you're expecting in 10 years that franchise to be worth 800 million, so you can double your money. $1,500 season tickets is not doubling your money. It will cut it in half in a heartbeat. So owners, big swing and a miss. $75K for the opening match. We thought so. It was a good turnout, as you mentioned. Very nice to have the first day. Yeah, I was there. You can go down and say I was there when this team started. Right, have your pictures, see the team, crazy Efrain Alvarez goal, whatever. But we mentioned it's going to be capped at about 38,000 for the season. Do you think the number is somewhere around the 38,000 mark throughout the year?
It's hard to say that I can see them doing that, because if this team consistently doesn't play well, I feel like people will start to not want to go to games anymore. I think if you're a season ticket holder, you're obviously more likely to go to games because you've already paid for it. But if you're talking one-off game sales of tickets, I can't see why people would want to pay for that. They're not going to want to pay that insane amount of money to watch their team not play well when they could just do it at home. It's not like they have to just completely drop supporting the team because they can't go in person. They could still support the team in other ways while not breaking their bank to do so. And I don't think that the team has done enough to justify having this high of a price. I mean, I can't imagine anything they would do to justify this price, but the product that they have put on the field has certainly not made this even remotely worth the value.
So I just did a quick Google. Good friends at the Jujel. And they said they've sold over 20,000 season tickets already, which means that 20,000 people think that it's worth that price, whatever. They're aiming to get 30,000 people to every game that they have. And for year one, I think they do it because they're new, they're exciting, they're fresh off the street, right? The product doesn't matter because, it's a fun thing to do on the weekend, right? I've got these tickets, I've already purchased them, gonna go no matter what, and we'll figure out what we're doing after the game, right? My worry is the year after. And here's why. I like to use New York City and Orlando as my expansion hype die-off team for my examples. That's right about the year where you saw a big uptick in MLS interest, right? You started having a lot more teams spend on a lot better players. So I like to use that as my reference point. After 4 years, each team has seen at least a 30% decrease in average attendance. After the first year, it was 5%. I want to ask you, will Charlotte's 1 year decrease be more than 5, less than 5, or right about 5? And do you think their 4 year decrease will be around that 30% mark? And I'll run some numbers for you while you think about it so you can get
I think that it will be more than 5%, because I think the situation is a little bit different than those two in that the ticket prices are so high. So unless they lower the ticket prices to be something more reasonable, then I can't see them holding consistent on their attendance. I think that it would certainly drop if they kept the ticket prices around the same, because I want to say that, if they actually have sold more than 20,000 season tickets, my thinking is majority of those people were people who didn't have really any experience with soccer prior to them getting a local team. And they said, okay, maybe this is my opportunity to get more involved in the sport. I don't know anything about it. I'm going to buy a season ticket for it though, because this is like fun and exciting and I want to get involved in it. They didn't know ahead of time, like based on the roster that they were building and everything leading up to it, that this team was going to suck. and now they can see after the first season, you don't have to be a soccer expert to see that the team is not exciting and they are not performing well. And that the ticket is not going to be worth the cost because, you can only get so much excitement going to the game watching your team lose majority of the time. At some point, it's just demoralizing. It's not fun, and I'm not going to pay $1,500 to go be sad. To put it generally speaking.
To put it generously. So just in general, right? A 5% decrease from if they sold out every game at 38,000 would be right about 36,000. I think that's probably where you see them finish this year. 95% sellout rate. A 30% drop off is 26,600 from the 38,000, which is right about where the cutoff is between. Oh, did I close the? I had it up.
You melon.
I'm a melon head. I closed it. I had a really good website on season tickets right now, but 26,000 is. Oh wait. Oh, I have the Excel book open. Let's go. Pre-COVID, 26,000 would put them at FCC, right above LA Galaxy, LAFC, Orlando, Portland, and TFC. It put them in that range. That feels more likely to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, how quickly they drop to that point is going to be massive. It took. All right, so New York City went from 6% in their first year to 23% the year after that. Then they went up to about 20% less than 2015. Then now in 2019, they were down to 27.25%. Orlando went 4.5%, down to 23, down to 27, down to 30. How quickly they jump between 5 and 30 is going to be massive for this team. I think there is a ton of potential for the Charlotte team to be successful. You've got a subpar basketball team, a subpar football team, and a relatively decent hockey team. Yeah, they're top of the East. A good hockey team. But there is massive potential here because I know very few people who are hockey fans and soccer fans. You are either one or the other. I enjoy both, but I will watch soccer all day over hockey. I've got friends who will watch hockey all day over soccer, whatever. There's massive potential here if they can get it right. And even if they take a 30% dive off after 4 years, if they can go from 38 to 35 to 33 to 30 to 26 instead of 38 to 36 to 26, that'll still be massive because you give yourself that opportunity to continue to grow with a massive fan base in front of you. 26 is still a very good number. Don't get me wrong. My worry is that with the ticket prices, it drops far below that. It goes to like 20. That's half your attendance, and that's just not great. So
I got faith they'll fix the ticket prices, and if they get a good product on the fields, I mean, we see 75,000. The potential is there for this team to have crazy support.
Let me ask you one more thing that I didn't put in our notes off the top of your head.
Yeah.
Let's say they choose not to change their ticket prices and they continue to see the level that they have right now. They continue to sell out all the time, no matter what. Sell 20,000 season tickets a season. Casuals come in, fill the rest of them. Do you think we see a change in the MLS ticket structure where tickets start to skyrocket? I mean, I remember I went to a game just a few years ago on a Wednesday night for like $12. It was great. Awful soccer, empty stadium, but it was great. I had a great time.
Here's what I'd tell you. I would tell you I'm gonna pick up and I'm gonna go move to Charlotte because I would love to have that kind of throwaway money to go drop $1,500 and burn it in fire.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
I don't think it would change the structure though, because some of these teams struggle enough as it is. They can't afford to do that.
That's exactly where I was going with it. I can't see it. My worry is that this is the first step towards phasing those types of teams out. That's my worry. My worry is that you're going to start making it all about the uber rich, and your casual, college kid is not going to get to go experience it, and you're not going to grow your league, right? This whole thing is supposed to be about growing the league. Expansion team is supposed to give a new area of the country a team to support and a reason to follow the league. But if you're pricing them out of live games, you're not growing anything.
Pay to play just became pay to watch.
Yeah, terrifying. All right, we'll move on to our last topic here before we end this. I don't think we've been going on too long. Kamil Jozwiak signs for Charlotte FC from Derby on a designated player's contract. How much does it help Charlotte?
It's not saving their season. I can tell you that off the bat. This is not a signing that's going to, connect all the dots for them. I don't think Charlotte are terrible. They're not FCC bad, that's for sure. I think kind of like what we were talking about when we were on the live stream, they're just missing a playmaker, really. I don't think Jozwiak is that guy, but I think I don't see this signing helping them that much. I still think they missed the playoffs. I still think they look pretty poor this season. But I mean, I guess might as well try something. I know that they were rumored to get him a while back. Like I think prior to the season starting, then he got hurt. And I think now they're finally able to bring him in. So I know it wasn't something where it's like a move now to try to like fix the problem. This was like something that was planned prior to, I think, the season even starting.
Right. I was going to try and make some weird comment about Charlotte actually technically being worse than FCC, but they're not. They both haven't scored a goal, and Cincy have given up more than them. So that's depressing.
Well, I think Cincy has one goal at least.
No, they don't.
I thought they scored against Austin. It was 5-1.
Austin played Inter Miami.
Yeah, and first week they played FCC.
And beat them 5-0.
So it was 5-1. Yeah, you're right. It was 5-0.
I know I'm right. I'm never wrong. You know this.
Come on, man.
Charlotte needs somebody to put the ball in the net. Going back to our conversation. But the law of averages, right? Nerds, numbers. Law of averages say you put the ball in the box enough times, the ball's going to go in at some point. Karol Swiderski is a goal scorer. He can put the ball in the net. Jozwiak will help put the ball in the box for him to score. They probably need somebody that isn't Jordi Reyna to help him out. But
here we go. Jordi slander again.
You throw the ball in the box enough times, it's going to go in the goal. Jozwiak also has 3 goals and 22 caps for Poland, and he's 23 years old. It's not like they're bringing him over and he's kind of washed up and done. And they needed a player at this spot. They needed a winger who could do something. They had Mackenzie Gaines as their right winger for the start of the year. So they needed somebody to fill that role. And I think it's a good signing. What I really want to see is him have a very similar impact that Johnny Russell did at SKC. Come out of, the championship, be really explosive on the ball, have a really good drive. When you're on the ball, move off the ball, create some space, and really create a lot of good opportunities. And that's what I'm hoping that he brings there. Now, again, I have not watched him play. I don't keep up with my Derby County football. I'm sorry. But I did pack him in FIFA 20 as a team of the season card for Lech Poznan, which means he has to have some sort of ability because that's how the world works. But my question,
I'm gonna jump in right here and let you know that this is probably our first topic on this news segment that we actually disagree on, because I don't think this is a good signing. But we can dive in more into that. You can ask the question first, and then we can.
No, I was going to move on, but why don't you think this is a good signing?
Because his numbers have been horrendous the last season and a half in the championship.
Numbers only matter when they matter to you. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I mean numbers never lie. So his numbers last season: 41 games for Derby County, was 1 goal and 3 assists in
You know
41.
he was injured, right?
He had 41 games.
Yeah,
And
probably on and off out of injury. You can't get into a rhythm.
he had 2,700 minutes.
You can't get into a rhythm if you're injured.
It doesn't. He had 41 games. That is a ton of games.
For Derby County, you're not. Oh my God, are we about to do this?
What? What do you want me to
talk about? His Lech Poznan time? All right.
His Lech Poznan time was a different league, and it was also
so is Derby.
years ago.
So is the championship, and so is MLS. They're all different leagues. Congratulations.
Okay, but you wanted to compare him to Johnny Russell. Johnny Russell had 19 goal contributions for Derby, and then he had 6 and 11 in one season with Derby, and then he had the season after that 9 and 10. So it's not, Johnny Russell was putting up numbers and with Derby, and then he eventually made the move over to MLS. But I have his rating here on SofaScore because he wasn't on Who Scored. And SofaScore for last season and this season gave him a 6.6, which at best is bang average. I'm not taking bang average for my designated player signing.
I want to make a comment that I said Johnny Russell from Leeds for some reason. I don't know why Leeds was in my head, but I apologize. But anyways, back to you being wrong.
No.
You're wrong.
I'm not.
17 goals, 17 assists for Lech Poznan in the Polish league. Moves over to Derby. How many of those games, how many of those appearances did he go the full 90? Not a ton. Also, did Derby get relegated?
He got majority of these games here. But I would say at least more than half of the games he played that season, he went 75 plus. That's plenty of a sample size. I'm looking on Transfer Market.
Hold on a second. Derby are bottom of the league.
What, you talking about this season?
Yeah.
They're not bottom of the league this season.
Derby County are, okay, I'm sorry, they're 23rd out of 24th.
Yeah, because they had a 21 point deduction.
All right, let me ask you this. Oh, wait a second. You're right.
They would be like 15th without it or something.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm sorry. Again, I'm thinking of a completely different team.
I'm not a fan of this. I think I wouldn't be as against it if he wasn't a DP. So I kind of hope they bring him in and buy him down, but I don't like this as a DP signing. I think you should aim higher than this.
So here is my, and we'll move on to the next part. Is he worth the designated player distinction? You're still wrong.
No,
but I also may not be right. This is not MLS 2.0. We need to look at designated player slots as a long-term move, and here's why. MLS teams are consistently getting more Garber bucks. Every year there's an influx of more and more Garber bucks, and there are two different types of Garber bucks for our non-MLS friends from Charlotte. TAM and GAM. Your GAM, well, your TAM, TAM, targeted allocation money, is used to bring players in from overseas or inside the league. It's basically like trade money. Your GAM is used to help buy down your designated player's contract. I'm almost certain. Did I mess this up?
Who knows, honestly? I don't even think Don knows.
Hold on one sec. Let me just double check. Uses. I thought I had. No, I got it right. Come on, you beauty. Your GAM, your general allocation money, is used to reduce the amount that a player will cost against the salary cap, right? And teams are getting more and more and more GAM. So we can't look at designated player slots as a one and done. This person is locked in and you can't get another one. That is really important because he can be bought down from what we are hearing. He can be bought down to the TAM level.
as he should.
There wasn't a list of 9 designated players that Charlotte were just like, I'm going to get whoever I want. Right. So if it meant that to get somebody that they needed in a spot of need, to get him through the door, they need to put him on a DP contract for a year. By all means, get it. Because you can buy him down when you find out that you've got a designated player number 6 sitting in, I don't know, the Austrian 4th division that you want to go sign to a designated player contract. You can buy down Jozwiak and bring him in. So we can't look at it as, is he worth the designated player spot? Will he help the team? And if so, will he help the team immediately? Because they tried to get somebody before him. This is option number 2, by the way. Darwin Machis, the Venezuelan out of Spain. I was trying to think of the team name, but I couldn't remember. I could see the badge. I think it's Granada. Told him no, like, I don't want to come play for you, which sent Miguel Angel Ramirez on a rant and a rave and a whatever. But I'm lost in my notes here.
Okay.
MLS roster rules are confusing, but they've helped grow the league in situations like this where designated player slots are not one and done. If it meant that it helped getting him through the door so that they could buy him down, go on. I'm all about it. And something to go back there, I think him and Swiderski are going to link up really well, so I think he will help the team. And I'm going to go ahead and say this is a good signing.
I still don't think it's a good signing. And you have to hope that they buy him down, and in that case, then they have to spend either their TAM or GAM or whatever it is to buy him down, when you probably could have went and found somebody who can produce just as much as him and buy him outright on a non-DP contract, and then went and bought someone else that you could have bought down. I'm not a fan of it. I don't think his numbers of recent have justified a designated player spot for it. I get that they will probably likely buy him down, and when that happens, I think it'll be a more worthwhile move for them. But at the moment, as a DP contract for him, I'm not a fan. But we'll see. We will see.
We will see. Still feel really dumb about confusing Leeds and Derby. I'm sitting back. I'm like, how did I do that? But
they both got white crests.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'll make up for it on the back end. But at the end of the day, I think Jozwiak and Swiderski will link up better than Swiderski and Mackenzie Gaines, right? I'm confident to say that having another Polish player in the locker room with him will raise his spirits a little bit. He won't feel like he's isolated. And again, I think if he fits the system that Ramirez wants to play, I think they're going to give him a lot of freedom. I think they're going to give him the ability to kind of make his own decisions on when to cut inside, when to go down the line, when to serve the ball in, when to cut in and have a shot. I can almost see him kind of being a free-flowing winger, false 9, number 10, kind of floating in that area there and letting his experience just work. So yeah, we should expect good things. A statement came out after his signing from the, I want to say the owner. Yeah, the owner of Charlotte FC. He played against Spain. He played against Holland. Can you play in Salt Lake City if you played against Holland? I think you can. Just give me something. Give me something. I got a whole thing here. I got a whole thing here. I'm gonna let you go first.
I remember seeing somewhere. I don't remember if it was from Tom Bogert or if it was from someone in the replies to his tweet, but somebody compared this to people talking about Raisa Bully having World Cup experience before coming in for Philly. And I think that's great. That's a good comparison right there, because like really, how much did that matter? How much did Rice and Bully's World Cup experience matter for him? It didn't. He was awful. I'm not saying that that's like the sole like I just don't think comparing him playing against the Netherlands or Spain is a fair comparison to saying, oh, he did it against them, he could do it against RSL. I can name a ton of players that came to this league and did it against way better players and couldn't do it in this league. Frank Lampard, Andrea Pirlo, Gonzalo Higuain, Blaise Matuidi. These guys were, I mean, Higuain and Matuidi were training with Cristiano Ronaldo every day. I have yet to see them really like do a ton in this league. So I think it's a really dumb comment. It's totally, I don't think it's a valid comment to help justify that he can settle into this league super well. I'm not saying he can't, but I don't think that's the reasoning you use to justify that.
To answer the owner's question of can you do it? Can you play in Salt Lake City? You play against Holland? No. No, you can't. You ever heard the saying, can you do it on a cold, rainy night in Stoke? Stoke aren't good, but playing there is tough. There's a reason that saying exists. And as you mentioned, there are an insane amount of international players who have been top of the top in their national teams who came and cannot play in RSL or cannot play at Seattle because of the turf or cannot play in Colorado because it's a mile high. It's not the same as playing for your national team for one game for 15 minutes and saying you played against Holland. I don't know if that's a true stat, but I'm going to use it to sway my argument. This comes from a lack of knowledge of what it actually means to play in this league. Charlotte owners have not gotten off the East Coast. They played DC. They played LA at home.
Yeah.
You haven't gotten off the East Coast. You don't know what it's like to go and play Denver in a mile high altitude, play at Minnesota when it's snowing, play at Houston on a 100-degree day and on a Thursday in July when there's 1,500 people in the stands and nobody's saying anything. You don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like, but I know better than he knows what it's like.
Yeah.
Just because you have a little bit of international experience doesn't mean you can make it in MLS. Do I think he's going to make it? Sure. But to come out here and being like, oh, he played against Holland, he can do anything. Shut up.
Let me add a little bit of context to that as well. Something that Europe doesn't grasp about MLS that it is very unique to MLS is the travel distance.
I wanted to bring that up too. Go ahead.
I just mapped it. So to go from Poland, I mapped it just Poland to Netherlands. I didn't pick a specific place, but to go from Poland to Netherlands is 636 miles.
Are you kidding?
To go from
to school.
To go from Charlotte to Salt Lake City is over 2,000 miles. That is over 3 times the trip to Holland. I'm telling you now, that has an impact. 100% that has an impact. If you are constantly traveling for hours on end and then having to get up the next day and play, it will have an impact.
I want to put 2 things onto this. During the 1 o'clock kickoffs today, you had 2 games that were under snow, with 1 game at 88 degrees Fahrenheit, a water break, and hail. During the 88-degree game, it overcast, hailed, moved out, back to 88 degrees. That's just the first one. Second one, LAFC had to come play in Inter Miami today at 1 o'clock. There's this thing that I don't think a lot of the Europeans understand. It's called time zone changes. LAFC were technically playing a game at 10:30 in the morning today, which means they got up to prepare for a game at 5 in the morning their time. They play games at 7 o'clock at night over there, where they can get up and get through a routine and get through a rhythm and do what they have to do. Can you imagine getting woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning and be like, all right, let's go. You got 4 hours to prep for a game. And then you just got to go out and play. Now, LAFC handled it and got the result they needed to because they went up a man, but It's not the same. It's not the same. It just isn't the same. The travel distance alone is massive. Not to mention, it's not the same play style as it is in Europe. It's not like, oh, we're going to low block. We're going to wait for you to come at us, maybe try and counterattack. We're going to press the hell out of you. We're going to scissor tackle you if you get by us. We are going to break you. It's not the same. And again, I think he will be fine. I'm not going to go and say, oh, he's going to fail because of one stupid comment. But just because you played against European national teams does not mean you can go do it again in Real Salt Lake, in Houston, in Seattle. I mean, hell, even in New York City. You think he was playing Holland on a baseball field?
Oh, he was
he's gonna run over second base and trip. It's a different league. It is a different. It's just different. So check yourself, Charlotte owners. That's sad.
Yeah, I think from what I've gathered from this episode is that Charlotte does not understand this league yet.
Not even a little bit. They're owned by the owners of the Panthers, so they don't have any soccer experience in the ownership group. It's just money. It's a business decision.
Yeah, exactly that. But it's going to hit them hard because they're gonna learn the hard way about how this league operates. And yeah, I think that's a good way to sum up this episode. Is Charlotte needs to get a clue on this league.
They really do. I think
the fans have showed up. They've absolutely backed this team. The fans understand it. They get it. Time for ownership and managers to start getting a clue.
You're right. If you don't have an understanding of the players that make it work, you will not be successful. I was scrolling through Twitter just to double check something. I saw another video of NYCFC unveiling its science fair poster banner. We're going to end on a good note. Thanks everybody for listening in, watching in. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts on Charlotte FC, where you guys stand, what questions you might have, how do you get to the next level, make sure you reply to us in the comments of wherever you're listening or watching this to. Listening to this or watching this. I don't know why I threw the extra 2 in there. Make sure you're following us on all forms of social media to stay up to date on all of our thoughts on the big MLS news that comes out every week. And yeah, until next time, we will see you on the next episode of the Designated Players Podcast. See ya.